As Ethiopia counts the votes from its latest national election, with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed expected to remain in power, a far deeper crisis is threatening to split the country's social fabric entirely apart. Ethiopia's ancient Orthodox Church is sounding the alarm over an alleged organized campaign of mass slaughter of Christians in the country. At least 37 Orthodox Christians were reportedly killed in a fresh wave of violence between the 31st of May and the 2nd of June in Asko of East Arsi Zone. More than 280 people are reportedly still missing, and hundreds of homes were destroyed. Now, reports say that a 101-year-old church was also burned to the ground. Other church buildings were also reportedly destroyed. Church officials have repeatedly accused the Oromo Liberation Army, also known as the OLA or Shene, of carrying out the attacks. And they are now asking the intervention of federal government to stop the alleged persecution.
Many faithful believers were unjustly killed, and hundreds of our people were displaced from their homes. This is a deeply sorrowful event that has caused immense grief to our church. We earnestly call upon the government to put an end to this chain of violence and bring the perpetrators to justice.
The Oromo Liberation Army has reportedly denied responsibility. The group says it was not involved and claims that other actors are seeking to spark divisions between local Christians and Muslims. As a result, competing accounts have emerged over who was responsible for the bloodshed. But it is the federal government's direct reaction to the tragedy that has sparked nationwide outrage. Supporters of the church claim several prominent Orthodox figures have been detained after speaking publicly about the killings. Authorities have not publicly explained the alleged arrests, but the claims have further intensified the tensions. The Ethiopian Orthodox Gabriel Church is one of the oldest Christian institutions in the world. Its history stretches back nearly 1,700 years. For centuries, it helped to shape Ethiopia's monarchy, culture, and national identity. It remains a spiritual home for tens of millions of Ethiopians, and its influence extends far beyond religion, which is why the events in Oromia are drawing national attention. Now, much of this violence has been concentrated in the East Arsi Zone inside Oromia, and this is a region that has repeatedly experienced attacks and displacement as well as insurgency, now turning this critical area into a lawless center of unchecked humanitarian crisis. In March, at least 21 civilians were reportedly killed in Shirka district, also located in East Arsi. In October last year, more than 30 Orthodox Christians were reportedly killed in another attack. Since 2020, Ethiopia has experienced repeated violence across Oromia, including attacks on civilians, churches, and entire communities. And critics say that the state has failed to contain the bloodshed. The instability also strikes at the heart of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's political base. Oromia is his home region, and the Nobel Peace Prize winner, who promised national reconciliation, now faces multiple security challenges, from Tigray to Amhara and the continuing Oromo insurgency. Analysts say that the story is far more complicated than a simple Christian-Muslim divide. Both Muslim and Christian leaders have condemned previous attacks, and many observers believe that the deeper fault lines involve ethnic tensions, armed insurgencies, and the erosion of state authority. As violence persists inside the Prime Minister's home region, the bigger question is whether Africa's second most populous country can prevent its internal crises from spreading even further.
Harga murah diri sendiri aja. Diri sendiri harga murah. Sendiri harga murah. Rahman.
The Oromo people were absent from Ethiopian territory in medieval times before the 16th century, though their ancestors must have been multiplying in what is now Somali country, south of the Gulf of Aden. With their highly developed tribal organization, characteristic institutions outgrew their living space and started migrating in a southwesterly direction towards the end of the 15th century. In the 16th century, taking advantage of the universal chaos following the Muslim wars, the war with Graing Ahmed's forces, the Oromos flooded into the southern marches of Ethiopia. As a result of this wholesale immigration, and in spite of the ferocious resistance of various Ethiopian monarchs, the Oromo came to occupy a great part of the plateau as far north as Wallagga, Shoa, in the region of Harar. They also occupied with less difficulty large tracts of the intermediate levels, as for instance the escarpment region of Wallo, where they form a buffer community between the Amhara of the highlands and the Danakil of the desert. As Buxton and other authorities, both local and international, relate, the migration and expansion of the Oromo resulted in the genocide of a significant and massive number of the Amhara population and other indigenous people inhabiting the southern region. In Abba Bahari's chronicles known as Zenahulagala, which is an eyewitness work dating to the 16th century by an Orthodox monk, who records the massive and atrocious genocidal acts against the Amhara indigenous peoples by the Oromo and their invasions of different regions. The director of archaeological research, Jean Dorès, also relates in his work entitled Ethiopia that the Oromo would sacrifice the Christian Amharas to idols in celebration of their victories of invasion. The Emperor Iyasu in one instance would avenge the Amharas which the Boran Oromo had invaded, captured and sacrificed to idols. The Amhara emperors and patriots dedicated their existence to the defense of their kingdom. The highly organized and ruthless invaders would destroy entire cities, massacre the people, loot every treasury, and labor to murder the emperor to conquer the kingdom. The emperors and patriots having to defend their nation against invaders, both progressing from the southern borders, and Graing Ahmed's African and Arab forces would retaliate at equal intensity. Having eventually regained control, the succeeding generations of invaders would ironically become the accusers of the Amhara, pleading to have been subjugated by them. Very few seem to know that the capital city of Gondar was founded as a fortress city by Emperor Fasilides to secure the throne of the Emperor of Ethiopia and protect it from the southern invading Oromo by transferring it to the north to Gondar from Shoa. Fasilides himself was born in Shoa, and his father Susnios, who was captured by the Oromo at 16 and lost his father at their hands while at war with them. The heir of the princes known as Zamena Masafint was 100 years of the nation drowned in utter instability as a result of the constant wars with the expanding Oromos. It is indeed ironic that Amhara patriots are ever painted as subjugators, whereas it is they who have been pushed on their own land and their people who underwent an undiscussed genocide.